Live. Hey. Okay. So, hello, everybody. I think we're live. As always, if you're watching along and you're here with us, say hello in the chat and let us know you're along for the ride. My name is Nat Mesnard. My pronouns are they, them, and I am one of the co-directors of Scripted Games, here with some really amazing people. Brigitte Winter, my co-director with me at Scripted Games, and we have Will Roth from Creature Publishing. I'm so excited to be talking to both of them tonight about all kinds of cool stuff. We're going to talk about horror. We're going to talk about queer publishing. We're going to talk about anthologies. Oh my gosh. And hopefully make some friends on the occasion of live streaming for a Kickstarter / BackerKit campaign, which is what we're doing right now. And that's why you're seeing our faces on this screen. And to kick this off, Brigitte, I wanted to pass to you just to remind the folks out there who are watching and listening along to this, what is the campaign that this is all a part of?
Yeah, I mean, it is. So this campaign, first of all, we have a day left. I realized I just looked at our backer kit and we have like less than 48 hours. So we're at the very end of this campaign that we're really excited about. We are crowdfunding an anthology. It's Scripted Games' very first anthology. It's called Tales from the Cryptids. And it is an anthology that is going to mix TTRPG, short fiction, poetry, and all kinds of weird ephemera and marginalia. We have some really great designers and writers on board already. And then once the campaign ends, so like starting next week, which is crazy, we're going to have an open call for people to submit their games and their fiction and their poems and their weird stuff to us. So super excited about this project, and it just feels so nuts that we are close to at the end.
Yay. So brilliant. Thank you so much for giving the kind of run through of what this is. I feel like that's a perfect kind of leaping off point for me to talk about why we have Will here, because obviously we're interested in being at the intersection of games and fiction. And Will, in addition to being in my writing group, is a small press publishing rock star who hopefully, we're having you here in part because we want to find people who would want to submit to this anthology and be interested in this intersection. And I think that the kind of stuff that Creature publishes is really aligned with like fiction that's adjacent to the world of games, and also is fiction that Brigitte and I are both interested in. So I want to hand it to you and ask you to tell us a little bit about yourself, whatever makes sense to share with a hybrid games and fiction and ephemera audience, and then hearing about Creature as well.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. Lovely to be here. Hi, watchers as well. So my name is Will Roth. I'm the publicist for Creature Publishing. I basically consider myself kind of the interpreter between the book and the reader. So it's my job to, take something that might be 300, 400 pages and make sure that it becomes 3 really good sentences that are still kind of true to the spirit of what the author wanted to do. And it kind of gets adapted a bunch of different ways. I would say I have background in event planning and public speaking. I have done a bunch of, crazy nonsense throughout the course of my life, but I've been at Creature for a little over a year, and it's a lovely place to be. So Creature was founded in 2019. It's a woman-owned business based out of Charlottesville. I'm so happy to see that cat. It is, we describe it as essentially a press that's interested in feminist, queer, and trans horror thrillers and speculative fiction. So we are like a small trad pub press. We have, published a couple books a year since 2019. Last year we did 6 and we had a great year. It was really fun. The work was excellent. It was a pleasure to talk about it. And in 2026, we're going to do 7 books. So it's been really fun.
Heck yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. So we have a specific book from Creature that we tied to this campaign.
Mm-hmm.
I would love if you would actually talk a bit about this. So I'll fill in the sort of campaign details, which is that we have a special tier called Creatures Cash in this campaign, which again, only one more day to get this, but you get a bunch of books from us. And then we included a book published by Creature Publishing in that tier to put it in juxtaposition with our catalog, which is, to me, what's cool about Anthology and cross-genre publishing is juxtaposing work together and then like seeing how it resonates. You can also get it as an add-on during the campaign through the end of the campaign. And so I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that book.
Yeah. So it's mine, not literally mine, but it's called mine. It's an anthology of body autonomy horror, edited by Roxy Voorhees and Nico Bell. And it also has poetry and short fiction in it. And it's really fantastic. It came out in 2022. And one of the things that I love the most about it is that it is a really wide, fascinating definition of body autonomy and how that relates to horror. So, I would say that in part, it's about the horror of not having control over your your reproductive system, about the horror of having your hands cursed, and then what that does to you if your hands are your livelihood or they have to do with your identity. It's about the horror of needing to demand the right to die of cancer instead of having your consciousness uploaded into the cloud in like a strange future. So there's so many different interpretations of what body autonomy means. And mine was really put together in the wake of the overturning of Roe v. Wade, to give you kind of an idea of, what Creature wants to engage with in terms of the horror that we publish. And it is a book where all of the profits went to the organization that was then called NARAL, which is now called Reproductive Freedom for All. So the profits from this book do go to continue to support bodily autonomy in reproductive access, in abortion access, in hormone access, all kinds of different, like, very important things that are, consistently under threat and need to be, defended. So, yeah.
That is awesome. Brigitte, I wanted to hand to you and maybe ask you to share a little bit about how the connections we saw and how this is related with the publishing project we're doing with Tales from the Cryptids, because obviously the themes are very different, but I think there are some interesting relationships between that book and our work. So I'd love to go into that.
I mean, really, this was it started as the magical connection between the two of you because you are in a writing group together. And I know, have been talking about both of the small presses that are featured on this stream. And so I know that, Will, you were the one who suggested this anthology, which was really, really exciting. And I agree that it is just an ideal fit to be paired with Tales from the Cryptids. And Will sent us a copy of it. I read it in like a day. It was really, really incredible. It was a lot to take in a day because, as Will just described, it is a wide range of horror and topics that are just increasingly relevant since the Roe v. Wade was overturned. So, I, in addition to just it being a really values aligned and amazing project that we're excited to support, I love the way that it mixes poetry and short fiction. I love the lens on horror. I think that we're also exploring kind of a different lens on horror with this anthology. We're really interested in stories and games that explore the perspective of cryptids. So instead of being a traditional like cryptid hunting, cryptid mystery book, we're really interested in just stories from marginalized perspectives, stories from the margins, imagining what it is to be a monster and to be monstrous, which I do think connects with some of the themes that are explored in mine. And so really just kind of great harmony there. I also just really love horror. And so getting to collaborate with a horror press on a book like this is really exciting. And I'm excited for us to branch out into horror with this anthology. So super cool.
Yeah. I think, you're touching upon it a little bit, Brigitte, already, but like, I think one of the things that the horror community is so like excited to embrace, especially the queer horror community, is this idea of who's a monster and who's not a monster. And so I really saw that as like great overlap between what you're doing and what we're doing. There's, like, it's been said many times and we'll continue to say it, that like that's part of the reason that horror is so inherently queer, is this thing about like the judged body, the maligned and misunderstood, societal role and stuff like that. So I think it's super fun.
Yeah, there are these just amazing, transgressive, important stories that I think can only be told through horror.
Yeah.
It's the reason why I love it so much, and just everything that you're saying, I'm resonating with.
I'm saying this because I forgot to say it before, and I'll just be mad at myself if I don't mention it. But my favorite story in here is about a pregnant teenager in a cult. She doesn't want to be pregnant. She doesn't want to be in the cult. And she births a monstrous rescuer. And so that to me is like the perfect, concept or embodiment for what we're interested in as a press, and what is so great about horror in particular.
Well, that's also my favorite story in the book, which is probably why Nat thinks we should be friends.
Yeah. It just happened.
Well, I did say like you two are like my two spookiest friends. And
perfect.
I'm really delighted by this because part of the reason we're doing this anthology actually is because we are called Scripted Games and we are named after cryptids, but we have a lot of creatures in our publishing history. Like most of our games are actually about creatures. We have trash animals, we have sci-fi ecologies, we have punk bards that have horns and fur and so forth, and it's very that orientation of monstrousness and being on the margins. And then it was like, probably we should like do something that connects with cryptids because like that was the core aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
And then what has been cool about that is that cryptids
are just like, where's the cryptid stuff? And we don't have it. So
yeah.
It's a pretty good indicator that you should address that.
I know. So we're like, okay, we need to make something with cryptids. But then the thing I realized is, yeah. So, but cryptids are part of like horror as a genre. I have realized through this publishing project. And it's causing me to actually be able to make contact with horror, which you guys are way more into horror than I am. So I'm looking to you to tell me.
I have really appreciated Nat's journey into horror as a result of this project.
Emerging goopy from a chrysalis. Oh, okay. I feel like so many people undergo that transformation, right? That realization, where they're like, oh, this actually isn't what I thought it was. It's much more interesting and complex, and it applies to me. So that's been a really fun thing for us, and for like, me about the horror renaissance is like people who did not think they wanted to engage with horror going like, oh, wait, is it just about like catharsis? It's just extra, and so that's a really rewarding, kind of wonderful thing, like come home. Yes, of course. Like the blood is so warm. Like
I love how that connects to like, what's happening with TTRPGs too.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I think that so many people, me included, right, grew up thinking TTRPGs could only be one thing and there wasn't space for us and we thought we understood what it was.
Yep.
And then you just get like right below the surface and it's like, oh, it's this. There are so many possibilities for what this could be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I introduced Will actually to the Quiet Year in our writing group. So we got to do like a game. And
gateway.
Yes, it's a gateway game. I actually would love to ask you both about horror reading and horror books because I am new to the genre as a reader. I would love to hear what is a gateway horror book you would recommend that I read.
Oh.
I know I'm putting you on the spot, and for those listening, I didn't ask them this beforehand. So if your mind goes blank, I would also accept hearing something you're reading right now, or a recent book that was on point in horror that happened for you in the last like 6 months, maybe, or
I
a
think
year?
because you're like basically teeing up Will to be able to pitch some awesome stuff from Creature,
Oh my.
that feels like probably where we should start, and then we can just nerd out about other stuff.
I would love that.
I'm happy to do that, because I thought of one creature book and one non-creature book right away. I will say that, like, to get the non-creature book out of the way, and of course, I don't mean to get it out of the way, but I think a lot of people's gateway horror recently was The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. This year he's got The Buffalo Hunter Hunter, which is extraordinary. And I would say, like, The Only Good Indians is about 4 Blackfeet childhood friends who basically kill a deer in a way that's not consistent with the values of their culture, and then they find themselves horrifyingly haunted by it afterwards. And it is really good. It has like one of the only textual jump scares I've ever experienced in a magnificent way. It does really interesting things with point of view. So that's a great gateway horror for some people, for lots and lots of people. Yeah, Brigitte.
Also, it's one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah, that's an excellent one. And then the other one that, of course, I am going to pull from my babies is My Lips Her Voice back here. I think I just lost another one. Don't tell that. Sorry. So My Lips Her Voice is by L.L. Madrid. This is, I call this a possession murder mystery. And so this is what we would call like a more cozy horror, or more kind of like accessible horror for people who like aren't sure how much they want to engage. And we could describe this as like Arizona Gothic. It's set in a small tourist trap town in Arizona that has like a heavy kind of ridiculous tourist culture around its mine. And basically it's about a shy, clairvoyant high school girl whose cousin is murdered and then possesses her. And the two of them fight for control over the body as another girl from their school goes missing. So it's told in these wonderful braided timelines and points of view. It's got like sapphic content and a great interrogation of like the ethics of true crime, I would say. I think there was such an interesting true crime boom like a couple of years ago, and then a lot of people were like, oh God, like what were we doing when we were interested in that stuff for entertainment? Like, how do we feel about it now? And I think My Lips is so good at kind of picking apart what that means on every level. So I think that's a wonderful gateway horror book. Lee, the author of this, is going to be at the Tucson Book Festival in a couple weeks. And then this actually made the preliminary Stoker ballot a little while ago, which we were really thrilled for her about. So.
That's awesome. I will definitely have to pick that up.
We had...
Bridget, go ahead.
Sorry. I like one of my favorite things about this book. It's really intricate. It's beautifully plotted. It's like a really kind of classic mystery in some ways. And we had somebody actually DM us and tell us that they had been keeping their own like evidence journal as they read the book. They were like doing the red string thing because they had to figure out what had happened. And like, I can't think of a better endorsement than that of the mystery that she built. So.
It's like, this book inspires a murder wall.
What more can we ask? That's
here for it.
Mm-hmm.
My thing I was about to ask was, Bridget, do you have any gateway horror or nerd out moments off of what Will shared?
I mean, I haven't read that book and I'm very excited to. And as I said, Only Good, one of the best ever. And I'm trying to think of like what I would consider a gateway horror book. Mm-hmm. And I can't think of anything but just like what I'm reading right now.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is gateway horror at all. But also like, what even is that?
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think, the last couple of books that I read that I really, really liked, and I really like kind of genre squishy weird stuff.
Yeah.
I really liked Eat the Ones You Love by Sarah Maria Griffin, which is like carnivorous plant horror sapphic love story set in a dying shopping mall in Ireland that's about millennial ennui and like all kinds of other just really great stuff. And does some really interesting things with point of view. And I really, really enjoyed that book. I also really enjoyed The Starving Saints by Caitlin Starling, which is like medieval horror set in a castle under siege with like cannibalism and kinky queer longing. And I would recommend both of those. And that's the last two that I read. So there you go. Welcome to my brain.
Hell yeah. Cool. I'll just add those to my stack with all the like weird fiction that I have in there and try to incorporate some horror. So I have a question, and we'll make this the last question, right? Because we want to leave them wanting more. That's my live strategy. And then after we talk about this, we'll talk about kind of where to go next and how to tap into creature and things like that. But I wanted to, I know this is like a unpopular topic, which is anthologies. And I know
I freaking love anthologies.
I love anthologies too. And it's such an interesting thing because I actually was literally just having a conversation with someone where this same vibe came up, which was I was talking to someone at Hive Mind Books, and they were like, what's some good genre fiction to read in fantasy? And I was like, I don't really know. But then the Little Puss, like Prelude to Little Puss Press anthology, Meanwhile Elsewhere, was there on the shelf in the section of fantasy and sci-fi. And I was like, this is a really good book, though. I like this. And the person was like, I don't like anthologies. And I was like, it was that same feeling of like, I want a full story from start to finish. And I don't want to like fragment or reset my brain or something like that. And I was not surprised to get that reaction, but I was also really sad because if you don't know what that book is, it's like trans sci-fi and fantasy. Like it's an amazing anthology. It blew my mind. I was obsessed with it. And it's frustrating when people say that, but I'm also interested in both of you thinking through or talking to me about how you feel about anthologies, what is cool about them, and then maybe how do we sell people on the idea of things by multiple people in the same book? And Will, I'll hand to you first.
Okay. That's so nice of you. Obviously I'm pro anthologies. This is actually the only one that we've done. We do have some short story collections. And the reason is not because we don't support anthologies, it's just that it's really hard to wrangle people, as I'm sure you're discovering. And I think the thing that's really cool about anthologies, that was very pertinent to mine, is that it creates a image through mosaic. It just allows you to explore one topic in a multidimensional way that you could not possibly get from one author, or from a novel. I think it's really valuable to say like, oh, bodily autonomy means this. Just kidding. It means this. Actually, it's this. Like, to go on from there and there and there. And it really, I think, forces you to reevaluate what you think every time. It's, like a kaleidoscope or a maze where you turn a corner and you're looking at something different. And I think that when you're looking at a topic that's valuable to you, and in our case, it was body autonomy, but, in your case, it's about like monsters and belonging and, all that stuff. Like, it deserves a serious multidimensional treatment that is really rewarding and exciting.
Yeah, I so fully agree with that. I mean, I think that's really the central thing that I love about anthologies too, is I like anything that troubles the idea of a singular narrative about anything, right? Yeah. So especially something that is thematic and something that is relevant. I think it's really important to have different brains and different perspectives on that topic. I don't know that you can really fully explore something like that without all of those voices. So I really love that about it. I love the idea of just like a buffet of delicious little treats by different brains. Which sounds like horror, what I just said, but that's how I feel about it. I have encountered some of my favorite new writers through reading anthologies who I never would have run into before because the publishing industry kind of sucks, right? And so there are really incredible writers who you're not going to see front and center, you know, in your Barnes and Noble, who you might encounter in an anthology and then look up their work and be like, oh my gosh, this really speaks to me. And so I really love that about it. I love, even though, you know, this actually is controversial, I love not reading an anthology in the order that it's necessarily in. I say as an editor who's about to very carefully construct an anthology and put things in the exact right order, I get it. And also, I do think it's important, especially for people who feel overwhelmed by anthologies, to know that like there's no rule that says you have to read every single story in the anthology. There's no rule that says you can't start at the end. There's no rule that says that you can't like flip through and see what title speaks to you and just hook into something on any given day and bounce around. And I think that that makes that reading experience more accessible when people don't feel the pressure to like start from beginning to end and read it like a book, because it's not a singular narrative. That's kind of the point of it. And I also like when editors are thoughtful in putting together an anthology with that in mind and imagining that people might do that, which is a fun challenge in and of itself. So I think the anthology is great, and that's why we are publishing one.
Hell yeah.
Thank you for saying that. I'm really interested in the idea of anthologies and collage, mosaic, and mazes, which were all things that you brought up, Will, also in relationship with a mentality of making games. I was actually thinking through this with some of my students today, which I'm teaching a class called Interactive Memoir. So we're like making interactive fiction, except it's nonfiction. And we were talking about how work that juxtaposes and kind of accumulates feels related to games because of the way games think through things, which is like many voices, many brains, many narratives. It's about things being out of order because there's less control over ordering in both video games and when you're talking through something in a TTRPG. So I feel like this is actually kind of a spark that's helping me see why an anthology itself as a form has a relationship with game making, which is another reason why anthologies are awesome and people should engage with them more, because in a way they're like teaching you what it feels like to experience a story game, which is, it's a lot of people. That's the good thing about it. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, that reminds me too, actually, of something else that I forgot to say before, is like, the other thing about an anthology is that it's inherently like a communal activity. And I think like, you know, I spend a lot of time like in the horror community, among horror readers, among like horror movie watchers, like, you know, and it is always one of the best things that I can do with my time is to just hang out with a bunch of other horror people, because they're all incredibly weird and interesting and creative and engaged. You know, they inherently are ready to, you know, pick apart something, like figure it out. They are out to be challenged and changed by what they consume. And so when you get a lot of those people together to make something together, you're replicating what's great about being part of the community that you belong to.
And then the readers become part of that community too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes. Well, I feel like that's a perfect note to kind of just be like, that's the homily of this amazing live stream with the two of you. We've extolled the benefits of anthologies. So, you know, obviously you can engage with any of the anthologies we talked about, which is our project, which includes mine. Will, I would also love to ask you, like, if people are listening from our audience who are like game people and scripted games people, how can they like tap into the creature publishing world?
Thanks. Yeah, you can find the website at creaturehorror.com. And that includes, you know, most of the book, or it includes all of our backlist titles, and then most of the books we're going to be publishing this year. So you can see some summaries, and you can see Luisa Diaz's unbelievable covers. One of the things that people tend to know about creature books is that the covers are bomb every time, and that's really because of Luisa. So shout out to her always. And then we are on Instagram at Creature Publishing, so you can see things that the authors are doing. We're doing a series of cover reveals right now that's been really phenomenal. We had one today, and we're going to finish up next week with our book of 2026. And so you'll be able to see kind of what those books are about, like why they're so exciting. And yeah, I would love for you guys to check us out there if you think you might want to know anything more about us. We have a newsletter that I update when I have time, which is rarely, but it's called Nestful of Bones, and you can find us there. We used to have a Twitter, which we no longer do for obvious reasons, and we are not on Blue Sky yet. So our website and then Instagram and the newsletter are the places to find us. Well, we'll be at StokerCon. We'll be hanging out, doing things. So I'd love to meet and say hi.
Did you want to plug your Stoker nominated book?
Yes. That's where to go. Okay. All right. So this is an arc. So just pretend there's a beautiful quote here from Gwendolyn Tice. I ran out of actual copies. But this is The Scald's Crow by Grace Daly. Look at this beautiful kitty. Grace is our Stoker nominated author of last year for superior achievement in a first novel. This book is fantastic. It is about a woman who comes back to her childhood home after her abusive mom goes missing. She's dealing with an undiagnosed, painful, disgusting chronic illness, and the house is punishingly haunted. And she has to deal with those two things at the same time. The cat on the cover is a rescue cat that she gets to help, kind of like the first act that she takes to defend herself, to fight back against this haunting. And he is a wonderful cat. If you know and love a cat, you will want to squeeze this little cat's cheeks. And it's just a very funny, great book. It's there's a lot of writing about pain and injury in the genre, obviously, but I have never ever seen anyone write about pain the way that Grace does, as somebody who lives with chronic pain and disability. So look, we're so proud of this book. I think it's really important to further disability horror as a subgenre, and we're just really excited. It's an honor to be on that final ballot.
Yay, please win. That sounds so good. Thank you so much for letting folks know about that. I'll have to put that on my stack as well.
Please do.
Brigitte, I want to hand to you for any last things we want to tell people about Tales from the Cryptids. They have a day left. What's exciting?
Yeah, they have a day left. So definitely, visit Tales from the Cryptids on BackerKit, and make sure that you back it if you want the anthology. If you've already backed it and you're just so excited now about Creature Publishing and mine, and you want to upgrade your reward tier to the Creature Cash, you can do that. I believe mine is also an add-on that you can add to your reward as well. And so highly encourage everybody to do that. And you spread the word, please. We're really trying to get to the $10,000 mark. We're almost there. We're at 80%. And if we do that, we can add 20 more pages to the book, which means 20 more pages of content. And we're talking flash fiction and poetry and really short games. So that's a lot more awesome folks that we'll be able to say yes to when we do our open call in the next month, if we reach this goal. And we're so close. I think we can do it. So please spread the word about the campaign. Please follow Scripted Games at Scripted Games on really all social media. We're probably most active on Instagram. We're also on Blue Sky and Facebook, I guess. And scriptedgames.com is our website. So thank you all for joining us.
Yay. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. We're going to conclude, but again, everything Brigitte said, follow all this great stuff and support small press publishing. It's critical to do it if you want to make it continue to happen. It's us. So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching this. And have a great night.